Hello, friends, and welcome to Nuts and Bolts MMA. I am your host, Travis Montgomery. Thank you so much for joining us. Please go and follow us across all social medias. Appreciate all the new downloads, and if you don't mind, would you please share this link when you see it pop up on your timeline, and go and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. Today we have returning co-host and a new guest. We are going to do a quick UFC 263 recap. We'll get into a couple fight announcements and we'll preview Vegas 29 on ESPN. First, let me welcome back Mr. Adam. How is everything going on your end?
Hello. Everything's going well today, Travis. How's everything going with you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing a little better than I was this past weekend after getting my brains blown out from UFC 263. It was not pretty. Well, we are triangulating from California to Maryland to Florida with our next guest, Mr. Justin. How are you doing on your lovely evening?
Man, everything's awesome over here, guys. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So quickly, I want to ask you, like I ask all of our new guests, how did you get your start into MMA and when was it?
Man, so I've had kind of a weird relationship with MMA. I think early on, me and my brother got into it. We watched like old Pride fights and stuff like that. I was kind of more of a casual. And I think around I want to say 2007, maybe, I think I watched Big Nog versus Tim Sylvia. And ever since then, I've been kind of hooked on it.
Yeah, well, that was a good one. And what do you got going on with you right now? You say you're going to school?
Yes, sir. I am in a nutrition and dietetics program. I'm currently an undergrad. Hopefully one day I can get into grad school and get my PhD.
Yeah, you look pretty fit. You currently working out? What's your workout regimen looking like?
So I try to at least go to the gym at least 4 or 5 times a week. Just kind of gym bro thing right now, just chest, arms, back, legs, everything like that. And I think actually one of my classes is actually helping me out with my workouts. That way I could target different muscle groups that I didn't even think about. So, yeah.
Well, right on. And for that, let's get to our UFC 263 breakdown. Well, I'll do a quick betting recap, which was a complete wash across the board. I lost 7 units in this UFC event. I won none of my bets that I posted here. Now that gives me a down -9 units. It's very embarrassing. Going to be hard to come back from this one, but I'm going to be just completely honest with you and try and chip away at these units lost. Probably one of the worst events I've ever had, and it led to not only was I already depressed, but that just sent me down a spiral. We were going to recap with somebody who couldn't make it, and I was kind of glad, but feeling a little bit more confident, and I've picked myself up off the ground, and here we are to recap. So Israel Adesanya retains his middleweight belt versus Marvin Vettori. I have to just say that I underestimated Israel. Not that it was a complete sweep or anything, but let's go to Justin first. What did you see in this fight?
Man, I just thought it was kind of a masterclass by Izzy. I think he had, even when he got taken down, it still felt like he really wasn't that in danger. The leg kicks seemed to be stopping Marvin every time he hit him. He was hitting him right on the perfect spot. I thought his evasiveness was amazing. I think he just kind of whitewashed Marvin.
Adam?
Yeah, I gotta agree with what Justin said, man. Izzy was dominant. Like even the round between rounds, the corners, Rafael Cordero and the coaches at Kings MMA were letting Marvin Vettori know, hey, you're down 1 round, you're down 2 rounds, you're down 3 rounds. Like we're keeping it real with you here. Like this guy's gonna win a decision. You have to go out there and try and finish. Well, yeah, you know, they always say there's levels to this game in MMA. This is one of those fights that just proved that there's currently at least one level between Marvin Vettori and Israel Adesanya as mixed martial artists.
Yeah, I was impressed with Izzy's get-up game. You know, the floor was lava for him as soon as he touched it. He was getting back up. And the thing with Marvin, too, is that he was just throwing – seemed to be like have this basic bitch game plan where he would just throw a 1-2 and then go for a takedown. For someone like Izzy, with his kickboxing credentials, you've got to throw more than just 2 punches. The third or the fourth one's going to land. And maybe he wasn't strong enough or had the proper top game to keep him down like John Blachowicz did. But props to him. Anything else
Also,
to say about
Izzy kind of has a very underrated takedown defense game. Like, I think he's like number 2 right now as far as takedown stuffed. I think that like the size advantage and just that Jan's just been grappling for so long. Like, I saw that he was like a judo and jiu-jitsu black belt. So he's an excellent grappler.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, props to Marvin Vettori. He never quit a lot. Those leg kicks were absolutely brutal. And Marvin Vettori, you know, being tough is not a good – it's not good when people are saying that you're tough in MMA, but he is one tough bastard. And it looks like Izzy versus Robert Whittaker, the rematch, is going to happen now, which I could say both of these guys are different fighters than when they fought, even though it was more recent. Both these guys have gotten a lot better in between matches. I expect this one to go at least further than it did. I'm not sure who my pick would be on this one. Any thoughts on what's almost, you know, it's been announced that Dana White wants it, Robert wants it, Izzy wants it. So it's just a matter of time before it's announced now. Adam, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the fight that's going to happen. It's the number 1 contender against the champion. And as Izzy said in his post-fight moment there, he wants it to happen in their neck of the woods in New Zealand, you know, so he doesn't have to travel internationally for a training camp for this. Now, we'll have to see if the New Zealand government has relaxed international travel and all that, because that's still something to consider in these, you know, post-pandemic times, if you will. And but if they are able to get that happen later this year or the start of next year, it'll be a great card, man. But I still think it ends just like the first fight did. Israel finds a way to finish Rob, but let's talk about the other things we have to talk about before we get there.
Yeah, true. And Marvin Vettori and Paulo Costa seem to be on a collision course. Paulo Costa calling him out on Twitter. Might have been a Twitter beef segment, but we don't have enough time for that today. Adam, quick pick, Marvin Vettori versus Paulo Costa. Who do you got?
When that fight gets announced,
I meant to say Justin, but Justin, go
okay,
ahead.
I'll go ahead and he can go. When that fight gets announced, which, you know, I think it will here, like, I think Paulo Costa is just broken after that Israel fight. Like, he hasn't taken anything. It's been almost a year now. He is not he's been more active on social media than he has been in the octagon. So I'll favor Marvin, who's been, you know, more active and who has a point to prove that he's the best guy, not named Izzy, in that division. So I'd favor Marvin in that fight if it were to happen. Justin, what do you think?
So if I gotta say Costa in that fight, I think he'll be able to stuff Marvin's takedowns, and I think that exchanging on the feet, I think that Costa's got way more firepower, and I think that his forward pressure will play into Marvin's boxing game is more technical than it is based on like power. So I think that the power advantage with Costa will probably hurt Marvin and probably stop even like the second or third round. Marvin's got a big ass head, so he can take a punch.
Right about that.
Moving on. Brendan Moreno is your new UFC flyweight champion. He gets it in round 3, a submission, beating Davison Figueiredo to become the first Mexican-born champion and one of the best feel-good moments of the year in the octagon, if not ever. A celebration between the two men. Justin, what do you think happened in this fight? What did you see?
So I'm not gonna lie, that was like probably my top 5 favorite MMA moments of all time. Like Brandon Moreno's just a good dude. Just he's got a good heart. He's tough as nails. He came back from getting cut, was the last seed on tough, and still came back and won. But as far as like, I don't know, man, it's hard to blame everything on the weight cut. I know that the weight cut for Figueiredo is hard, but I just think that everything that Figgy threw, Moreno saw it and he had a counter for it. And on the ground, they seemed like they were just 2 different belt levels apart.
Well said. Well said. I couldn't agree more. Like Figgy was one of my more confident picks going into that card, but like it was just like watching a masterpiece, like a wipeout. Like he dominated him on the ground, he dominated him on the feet, he dominated every aspect of that fight and was able to finish up, get the choke, get the submission, and all everything else that come with it. The whole moment, the pop, that was definitely the biggest, most impactful moment of the entire fight card. And that's tough to say on a card where Nick Diaz did what he did as well. That was, Moreno's moment was definitely the top takeaway. And as you say, good to see the good guys win. So I'm all for that. And good sportsmanship by Figgy in the end too, like lifting him up and stuff. And he's been saying he may move up to bantam after this fight, 135 pounds. I think that's the right thing for him to do as well. He cuts too much weight for 125. He's been champion here. Now he's like, let me go up a division, see if my power still translates and I can be a champion here as well. But we'll see. We'll see what that happens. 135 is the most loaded division in the UFC. It's very, very stacked. So he might be given a quick path towards a title there as a former champion of a previous division by giving him a top 5 fight instantly. But if they don't do that, it'll be really hard for him to work his way to the top of that division because that's very crowded.
Yeah, I agree with everything. So he had 40 seconds left to weigh in, and he barely made that cut. His previous weight cut before that, he was in the hospital. Obviously, this is a problem. I think this time it really affected his performance. He looked slow. He looked flat. But on the other hand, Moreno saw everything that he was throwing. We got a better version of Moreno, but I think we got a deteriorated version of Figgy. Moving up to bantamweight is, I think, the only thing left. I don't really want to see him try to kill himself to make that weight again. I mean, when he steps on the scale, he looks like he has 0 water in his body, and that can't be good. It's not good for your fight, and it's not good for long-term consequences either.
Certainly.
If we look at the
100%.
bantamweight division, you know what? Frankie Edgar might be one of the ones that could welcome him to the division, or Cody Garbrandt. They don't have fights yet either. I hope they don't fight each other. We're looking at Cody Garbrandt ranked number 5. Frankie Edgar is still sitting at 7. Everyone else, Dominic Cruz, I don't think he has a fight, but he doesn't really need to fight anymore. Who do you guys want to see him if he moved up real quick? We'll go over. If he moved up, who would you want to see him fight out of those 3?
I mean, you mentioned quite a few solid names there, Frankie the Answer. Although, like, I mean, I was thinking Rob Font as well. Like,
he's in title contention.
Yeah, he's in title contention, so he may not want to take that because if he loses to Figgy, that's his spot gone instantly. But then again, the UFC might not give him much of a choice. But here's one that, like, until we know the status of Sterling and his readiness to return and everything. And now, if someone wins Sandhagen Dillashaw very convincingly and they have a lot of buzz, the truth is they'll be next in line for Sterling whenever he steps back in for his first title defense. So Piotr Jan, if he just wants to stay busy and make money, because we all know, like, if you don't fight, you don't get paid. he could be the one to welcome Figueiredo to 135. Bill it as like champion versus champion or former champion versus former champion. That's like a co-main event of a pay-per-view right there, or like the headliner of a big like fight night on ESPN or ABC or something. So, free marketing, UFC, get my DMs, hit me up.
So, Justin, any opinion on who you'd want to see him if he moved up to fight?
Yeah, I think Rob Font is the way to go, because I don't think that the UFC would give Rob Font a title shot right off of beating Garbrandt. I think they'll want to see him versus somebody who just lost the belt, and they're going to bill it as like him being versus another champion. And plus they're going to bill it as like, how will Figueiredo look at 135? And if he even looks anywhere near it, that fight should be just outstanding. I mean, both of them are polished strikers. I mean, see how Figueiredo's power translates to 135. I think that fight's awesome. I think that's the fight to make.
Moving on, Leon Edwards defeats Nate Diaz via unanimous decision. I'm kind of glad Nikki B isn't here to roast me right now, because we kind of went back and forth on this. I had Leon in rounds 3 and 4 and also the under. So that one was kind of a blow. But Justin, tell us what happened in this fight. What did you see?
Well, I mean, I can't stop thinking about that 5th round, how crazy it was. It's like Diaz had him hurt at like what? He had like maybe 50 seconds left or something like that. And like, I get the showboating thing. It's funny, it's cool and everything like that. But at the end of the day, man, like, you got a thing you got to do. Like, I just think like if he would have just started pouring it on, maybe he could have got the finish. But Leon wins. It was a bit of an underwhelming performance on Leon's part. I know Nate Diaz is great and everything like that, but people, like you said, people went out there expecting Leon to finish him. I think that it kind of hurt Leon Edwards a lot that he didn't finish him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, it's as if Nate knew what he was talking about when he said this has to be a 25-minute fight, because if it ends as a 15-minute fight, the first to 15th minute were all dominated by Leon Edwards. Same for the 15th to 24th minute. It was only the final 25th minute that things went crazy with Diaz, and the entire crowd was already behind this man. So like the pop was insane when he rocked Leon and almost got the finish if he wasn't showboating. But like, yeah, like it's rare to see one of those cases in mixed martial arts where you win a convincing decision, yet your stock drops. But that's exactly what happened to Leon Edwards. He is no closer today to being called to challenge Kamaru Usman than he was, when we recorded the last podcast, which is a shame for him personally.
Yeah, Leon is in a really weird spot right now, isn't he? It's like he did. It feels like he just didn't even fight at all. It's like it still feels like he needs another fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 9-fight win streak and your stock drops, which is not good. And not to say that he didn't look good in those first 4 rounds. Nate looked like he was in trouble. He was cut up. He had a cut on the side of his head. He had a cut around his eye, which is normal. Nate was doing a lot of, I guess, kind of like running away in a sense, trying to stay away. Maybe that was getting Leon tired. Nate just was waiting for his shot, and he hit him. I think it was a 1-2, and had Leon Edwards walking around like a zombie. But then he did point and laugh and admire his work a little bit too much, and that might have cost him a finish there. Yeah, Leon Edwards was, he thinks he's in line next for the title shot, but it's obviously Colby Covington. I don't know. It's the welterweight division is it's all right now. The talent level is pretty high in that division. I think Kamaru probably reigns it for a while now. If you guys want to check him out, he was on Hot Ones this week, or at least that show aired. Anything else to say before we move on? I mean, Nate Diaz, he continues to surprise me. I guess I underestimated him a little bit.
So the
and, you know,
weird
just
thing
a,
about that,
go
the
ahead.
weird thing, my bad. Oh, the weird thing about that punch that he hit Leon Edwards with, I'm pretty sure that's the same punch that he hurt Conor McGregor with, and the
Mhm.
same punch he dropped Jim Miller with in their fight.
It looked like it. Yeah, that straight,
Yeah.
just that 1-2, that
Mhm.
basic 1-2. Got caught sleeping. Leon Edwards did. So let's move on. I don't really, it's just so hard to speculate what might be next for Nate Diaz or Leon Edwards. So we'll just move on right now. The only fight I got right on this card, Bilal Muhammad defeats Damian Maia via unanimous decision, was able to keep away from the takedown. Adam, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, honestly, this was a typical Bilal fight. You know, when he fights someone at or slightly below his level right now, this is what you would expect. In the Leon Edwards fight that we never got to see the end of, I expected the opposite to be done to him. So what he did to Maya last week was what I expected, but Leon to have done to him in that fight. But you know, due to the foul, we never got to the end of that one. But yeah, you know, it's just a top 10, top 15 range welterweight. He went out there, got a win. And I know he's trying to call his shot for like, you know, chances to move up the ladder. But the welterweight division is one where it's like prima donnas, you know, like they no one wants to fight. Like no one wants to like among all the UFC divisions, I'll say this is the one that the participants like hold on to their rankings most dearly. Like, oh yeah, I'm number 6. I can't fight number 10. That's too much of a drop down for me. We're like, you're just two guys on the same trajectories in the sport. You meet at this point. Let's see who's better, you know. But that's just the way I see that division going. But you know, good for Bilal to get his hand raised again.
It's on a 5-fight winning streak. Justin, did you catch that one?
I did. That was I think it perfectly said. It was like a typical Bilal Muhammad fight. He just kind of seemed to like point fight. It's kind of hard to sell that win because Damian Maia he's getting up there in age, and Bilal didn't really look like somebody who's like ready for a guy like Leon Edwards yet. I think somebody like maybe the winner of Sean Brady, Kevin Lee, maybe like that. I think he's got to put on better showings if he wants to convince the fans, because you know the people would want to pay to see him fight Leon Edwards. I don't think so.
So Bilal Muhammad moves up 3 rankings in the welterweight division. Right above him is Neil Magny. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight, see where both of them are at.
So I think they're probably going to do Hamzat Chimaev versus Magny. That's what I've been seeing on Twitter a lot. So that's why I didn't pick Magny.
Huh. Okay. Well, yeah.
Can't wait for my boy Hamzat to return.
Yeah.
It might be my second favorite fighter on the roster after Kamaru.
Yeah. I try not to be a fanboy over these Dagestani guys because they just keep killing Americans. So, but Kamzat, I think, is a problem. I can't wait to see him come back. A lot of people that don't know, he had COVID and was still training with COVID with the compromised immune system, which made it worse. I'm not sure if he had something else going on, but it was pretty serious enough to where he was thinking about retiring. But we're going to get him back hopefully soon. And I hope you're right about that, Justin.
Yeah.
Because that would be a sick fight. And Damian Maia, he's at the end of his contract with the UFC. Dana White says he doesn't want to fight again. He is not going to re-sign him. But Damian Maia did come out on his social media and say that he wants one more fight and he wants it to be with Nate Diaz. Now, if Nate Diaz won in that fight with his star power, he could probably get the organization to sign it. I think that would be interesting for both men involved. But moving on to just a what the fuck moment with Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill. Obviously, I was kind of big on Hill in that one. As long as what didn't happen happened, kind of, sort of, wasn't a submission, ends up being a KO in round 1 because the ref didn't want to stop the fight after Jamal Hill arm was just hanging around. Adam, what the hell was going on here? What did you see?
Man, that was tough to watch for after a little while. It's like his hand is broken. He doesn't need to tap for that to count as a submission. That's over. And I instantly went on the Twitter machine and said, sorry to all the Paul Craig by submission betters out there, because that was brutal. When you talk about a bad beat, like you have your sub locked up, and then like the referee decides to not call it, so it goes in the books as a TKO. It's crazy. Well, anyway, it was really good. It was a fun, fight for as long as it lasted, especially with the bad blood and animosity that apparently built up, all fight week leading into the fight. And then it ends the way it does, and you see the guys turn around and celebrate together, and all the images that were shared on social. So it's good, man. That's why that's all about competition. You want to compete and be the top dog, and when you see that you are, or you see that you're not, you're like, okay, I just move on and take my lumps and on to the next one.
Justin?
So I think that is also like one of those compare and contrast between like your Twitter supporters and the fighters and the fighter that you are, because I think a lot of Paul Craig supporters were jumping on Jamal Hill, and it kind of pissed him off, and he wanted to take it out on Paul Craig. But also, yeah, that apparently this ref is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I just thought to myself, like, who the fuck gave this guy a black belt? Like, if you can't tell that his arm is broken, like that was kind of ridiculous. And also, like, I saw on the post-fight press conference that they said that this guy has a history of screwing fights up. So I was just wondering, like, why would the commission even put him in that place? That's a big fight,
But that's the commission's job. The UFC can't appoint refs unless they're like in international waters, acting as their own sanctioning body. But yeah, this guy's an Arizona ref who apparently has done stuff like this before. So yeah, Dana White called him the Arizona Mazzagatti, which I thought was pretty hilarious.
Dana is always good with the nickname.
Yeah,
That's
well, so his arm wasn't, thank God his arm wasn't broken. His elbow was actually just dislocated. But as Paul Craig is triangling him and then hitting him with those elbows, and his arm is just, it's just, gosh, thank God that wasn't on UFC ABC or something. The ABC would probably never have him back. That was absolutely
you'd have had a lot of people clutching their pearls across the country.
Sure.
And
that was ridiculous.
And how tough is Jamal Hill though for not tapping?
Beast.
I mean, but then, like you said, Adam, the two partying together turned into a quite the cool meme. Anyways, I'm gonna mute this real quick. One sec, guys. I'll cut this out. Well, I've got my mom here opening the garage. I've got cars pulling out. We're going to move on to the news next.
Yeah.
Okay, that will do it for our UFC 263 breakdown. For now, let's go into some news. Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez will probably be postponed. Max has pulled out of UFC ESPN 26 with an undisclosed injury. And that's kind of unfortunate because I was really looking forward to that one. Rodriguez hasn't competed since his 2019 October win over, I'm sorry, I just lost it. Jeremy Stevens. He was scheduled to fight Zabit a handful of times, and Zabit has his own issues going on. ESPN 26 will be on July 17th. Now Misha Tate versus Marion Renault might be the headliner for that one, which is not awesome for an ESPN card that actually airs on ESPN and not ESPN Plus. Giga Chikadze actually called out Yair, and I'd almost rather see that fight because I think Giga Chikadze is skyrocketing to the top of the division. Adam, what do you think about, what do you make of all this?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, man, because that was a scrap everyone was looking forward to. I mean, I clearly remember Max dismantling Calvin Kattar over 25 minutes on ABC to start the year off. And that's still in my eyes is one of the best performances I've seen all year, like from the very first start of the year. And we'll find out what injured him later. Hopefully it's something minor and he's able to return to competition soon. But yeah, the fight's most likely off. Giga will be a good matchup for Yair, but again, it goes back to the ranking game, especially for a guy who's been out since September of 2019. He didn't fight at all during the COVID period, so that just tells me someone who at any point could be like, yep, nope, F this, I'm gonna take a step back or whatever. He could just pull out of a fight himself, Yair. Him and Zabit, very inactive guys for that 145 division. And if he does still stay on the card, the matchup with Giga will be a good one. Movza Evloev, his manager, also tweeted saying Movza is interested in taking the fight as well. So there's a few ranked options presenting themselves to him and the UFC there. And don't be surprised as well, someone that could just step in, like who obviously has been out since he got his butt whooped, is Calvin Kattar. Because, he last fought the same day as Max Holloway. So Kattar could step into that spot. So many things could happen. But I think the UFC tries to keep Yair Rodriguez on that fight night because he's been out for close to 2 years now. And there's a lot of, similar competition that can, be there for him. Honestly, in all honesty, I thought him fighting Max was biting off more than he could chew anyway. Max Holloway would have just done to him what he did to Calvin Kattar. But anyway, let's see how this shakes out now.
I 100% agree. I think that Max would have dominated Rodriguez and probably stopped him in the third. Another guy who I'd want to see Yair fight is Edson Barboza. I think that's an amazing fight. I mean, if they could get Barboza to take the fight on that short notice, but I would love to see that fight, or Giga. Either one is a kickboxer's delight.
Exactly. Good stand-up action.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing 45 is good for as well. That division has a lot of guys who enjoy standing and banging,
Yeah, also on that card is Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises, which is a banger. Other
Why
notable.
doesn't that become the new main event then? Because Islam's a star.
Yeah.
100%.
But Misha Tate, he's not a bigger star than Misha Tate right now. That's for sure.
Misha's just returning to fighting. This is going to be her first fight since God knows when. She was working as the vice president for one championship in Singapore, and then Dana White asked her to come home, and then she came back. And Marion Renault has said it's going to be her retirement fight. Those are two storylines. But again, Preston was two storylines that don't really move the needle for me anyway. Misha Tate's back. Now, even if she gets 3 first-round finishes in a row, do I see her beating Amanda Nunes in a year or 2 years' time? No. Marion Renault's retired. All right, happy trails. That doesn't do anything for me as a main event. That instead of showcasing the next potential 155 champion, which I think Islam Makhachev has a chance to be.
Yeah, and I think one Instagram post from Khabib would sell that fight too. Like Khabib being high on Islam like that is, I think it could sell fights too. And even Moist, he just beat Alexander Hernandez pretty dominantly, if I remember. I think that's an amazing fight. I mean, I would, if choosing between the two, I would definitely choose that one. But again, Misha does have a lot of name recognition, so that's probably, they're probably giving her like a Legends treatment as a main event.
Yeah, former champ, former coach with Ronda Rousey on the Ultimate Fighter. Big feud there. Some memorable moments, especially the way that she won the title. But anyways, we will move on to Curtis Blade versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Jairzinho gets his wish from the call out from his last victory. Curtis Blade just got finished by Derek Lewis, something I think Jairzinho could definitely do. This will be at UFC 266, where John Blachowicz is going to fight Glover Teixeira. Justin, what do you make of this fight?
So I really like this fight. I think it's the old school contrast of styles between a strong wrestler and a good kickboxer. If I'm a betting man, I'd put my money on Curtis. I think Curtis Blades has a very underrated chin. I think he's only been knocked out by Francis and Derek Lewis. And I mean, they could knock the red off a fire hydrant. So like, I mean, I'm not sure how, I mean, Jairzinho point fights a little bit sometimes. So it's going to be interested to see the first 4 minutes, how that would go. I think that would play out. The whole fight would play out in 4 minutes. So if Curtis is able to get the takedown pretty fast, I think he'll probably just either grapple him the whole fight, or either he'll probably like TKO him late.
Adam?
I'm right there with you, Justin. Like, it's just the thing with Curtis Blades is, if you ask anyone who are the top 3 power punchers in the UFC, you get Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. His hands are powerful. Now, granted, he doesn't let him go quite as often as the other guys. He does point fight a little. But we've seen all it takes was one punch power, the Alistair Overeem fight, the fight against Augusto Sakai we just saw. Like, and Blades was dominating Derek Lewis in the same way through like a round and a half until Derek Lewis connected with one and hit him. And you're giving Jairzinho, who's only been finished by Francis recently, I think. You're giving him like 25 minutes to try and find one right hand that lands on your chin. I bet he'll be able to do that. So that's why I see that fight going inside the distance again, and Jairzinho losing the fight up until the second he wins. That's what I'd say. So Jairzinho by knockout, because that's how he always wins. That's what I expect to happen in that fight at some point. Like, some guys, man, they just don't have it. As they say, NBC, never be champion. Like, and it's seeming that Curtis Blades might be one of those guys now. Like, no offense to him or anything like that. He's a great fighter, but just when you get to the top of the mountain, you're unable to like reach out and grab the throne, which is what I think, will plague him for his career. But yeah.
Yeah, and definitely 2 losses to Francis doesn't help.
My pick would be Jairzinho, but let's move on. Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa will be at UFC 265. Here we have Vicente Luque ranked number 5, Michael Chiesa ranked number 6. This will be August 7th with a date to be determined. Adam, what do you think about this one?
It's a good fight, looking forward to seeing. This is like a guy who's a master of jiu-jitsu, Michael Chiesa versus Vicente Luque, who loves the standing highlight finishes and things like that. So a great stylistic matchup. Let's see who emerges. I would probably lean Chiesa though, just because it seems like a quick turnaround for Luke, especially in 170, which we've said is a division that's slow as molasses. They typically don't fight as often as this. So let's see if Luke has what it takes after beating Woodley, if it has what it takes to beat Chiesa as well. So like I see Luke could win by a knockout. Chiesa could win by submission. If it goes to decision, I think Michael Chiesa is also the one likelier to get his hands raised. So 2 out of the 3 possible ways I see it for Chiesa. So I'm going to lean him right now before doing any tape study for the fight. I would definitely go with Michael Chiesa on this one.
I actually think if it goes to decision, Vicente Luque outpointed him on the feet and was able to stop the takedown. But Justin, what do you think?
I actually think this is a tailor-made fight for Luque. I think Luque will be able to stop the takedowns, and I think he will knock him out in either the first or second round.
Yeah, UFC 265, Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena, and Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munoz. It's going to have to be a little bit stronger than that for me to consider.
Yeah, I was about to say, that needs a lot more star power if they want to crack like 600,000 buys or something, because geez, that was sounding like 250, 400 at the most. Not gonna lie.
And we're 8 weeks away from that one, guys. So
yikes.
Yeah, they definitely got to throw a title fight on that or something. That card's kind of trash.
It can't just be Amanda Nunes against Juliana Pena. And Juliana's claim to fame is that I called her out because I enjoyed running my mouth, and I'm coming off a 1-fight win streak, and I think I'm gonna defeat the female GOAT. No one's gonna anticipate that.
right, and maybe we get a surprise Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou, but I think they'll probably save that for 267 and have it as their own headliner. Yeah, let's get some more on there. Let's get something else on there. Come on, UFC. Step your game up. Moving on. Pitbull. Patricky. I'm sorry.
Crisio.
You guys know who I'm talking about. Versus AJ McKee, set for Bellator 263, July 31st. This is going to be the most anticipated fight in Bellator for a very long time. I can't wait to see this. There are no betting lines out yet for it. AJ McKee might just be the one to knock off Patricio Pitbull. If I get AJ McKee as an underdog, I'm definitely going to pull the trigger on that. Justin, you watch Bellator at all?
Sometimes. I mean, I know both of them well, and I definitely think AJ McKee beats Pitbull. I think he's just got that forward pressure is going to be too much for Pitbull, and plus the size and length difference is going to be hard to see Pitbull landing a clean shot on him.
Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I honestly don't have much of a read for this fight yet, actually. Pitbull, he's ruled with an iron fist over that 145 and 55 division in Bellator for the longest. And, the end has to come at some point, but he's vicious, man. I just go back and watch his knockout of Michael Chandler in, their most recent fight. Again, when you think Pitbull's out of it, all it takes is one with him. So, but AJ McKee's 17-0 for a reason, and, he can be a bright young future for that division and for that promotion as a whole. So let's see if he is able to seize the moment and become a champion.
Yes, and either way, I think either one wins is good for Bellator. Pitbull wins, they've got arguably top 3 featherweight in the world. If AJ McKee wins, a new star is born. So that's a win-win. That goes down July 31st. I can't wait. Real quick, hot off the wire today, Oscar De La Hoya and Vitor Belfort have agreed to the boxing exhibition on Triller that will go down September 18th. In Triller's last event, Oscar De La Hoya was very belligerently saying that he's only going to fight the best. He's coming back, but he's only going to fight the best. He's coming back. He's only going to fight the best. We heard it about 12 times. In my opinion, Vitor's back on the sauce, so he's going to knock his block off. It only takes one, but then again, I don't know, maybe Oscar De La Hoya is too. Anything to say before we go to our preview?
Yeah, I mean, Victor Belfort is, since he's no longer in the USADA or any testing pool, is probably going to be juiced to the gills for this one. And I agree with you. He should go in there and give a highlight knockout of Oscar De La Hoya, who hasn't fought since 2008. That was 13 years ago. Like, people who were born on the night of Oscar's most recent fight are teenagers now. So, yeah, not great.
And with that, here is our UFC Vegas 29 preview. Okay, we are back at the Apex Center. Earlier start time for this event for anybody interested. We will be back at the Apex Center again one more time for UFC Vegas 30, and then after that, for McGregor versus Poirier will be at the Apex Center too. After that, all the venues are to be determined, so they'll probably be doing some traveling around the country. In this one, we have Chan Sung Jung, Korean Zombie, versus Dan Ige as your headliner in a 5-round fight. Chan Sung Jung most recently getting dominated by Brian Ortega, who moved on to challenge, who's going to challenge for the title. Dan Ige most recently beating Gavin Tucker, who I didn't think he was going to win that one. We'll start breaking this card from the top down and see how far we get. Adam, what is your read for this fight?
This is a very close fight, man, as the odds say. I do think Dan Ige wins, so keeping it short and sweet with this one. It's one of those things where, as a fighter, there's a certain amount of a beatdown a person receives in a fight that, like, a part of their soul is left in that octagon with them. And how that Ortega versus Zombie fight went down. Yeah, no, like TKZ, I think he might even get finished here by Dan Ige. Like, I think that's where I'll end up. I'll end up on Ige inside the distance. And I'll probably have Dan Ige in a parlay. But if I have to choose a method of victory for him, it's a finish, a knockout of Chan Sung Jung after a few rounds in there. What about you, Justin? What do you think about this one?
Oh yeah, it is. This is an interesting fight because the Korean Zombie still has very underrated knockout power. You know, I think he could probably clip Ige, but I think most likely, Ige will take it on a decision. I think the Korean Zombie will again probably just get pieced up a little bit, and I don't think he gets knocked out or anything like that. I think he's still tough enough to survive, but yeah, if I'm a smart man, I'm betting on Ige.
Yes, I agree with Ige. He's going to be one of my two bets for this card. I'm hoping to chip away at 2 units. I got him at minus 115. I think I agree with Adam that last bout might have taken a lot out of him. He's also pretty old in fight years. He's been fighting for 14 years now. And we kind of see him on the decline, while Dan Ige is somebody who fights to his competition and continues to surprise me. I honestly, I didn't think that he won the fight versus Barboza, but he surprised me there. He continues to surprise me. He lost a decision to Calvin Kattar, and there's no shame in that. He's won, 6 of his last 7 fights, all in the UFC. So I'm going to be going with Dan Ige. I think he rises to competition. I think he's getting better. And I don't think that we could say the same for the Korean Zombie, who is, he's kind of inactive. He fights about once or twice a year. He did have that couple-year layoff to do his mandatory service in the Southern Korean Army. But I'm going to go with Dan Ige on this one. Please don't make me look bad. I'm still bleeding from the wounds of UFC 263. And anyways, we will move on to the co-main event, which is Alexei Oleinik versus Sergey Spivak. I think this one is kind of simple. Alexei Oleinik pulls guard and gets his Ezekiel choke, or he gets knocked out on the feet or on the ground. Justin, is there anything else that can happen in this fight?
No, I mean, you pretty much called what's going to happen right there. I mean, the chances of that going to the decision are like 5%. And if they do, it'd be horrible. We don't want that to happen. This can't last more than 5 minutes. And I take Spivak in that. I think he's a bit better on the feet. I think once Alexei gets on the feet, he just kind of stiffens up and tries to shoot for a takedown or either throws crazy haymakers. So I think Spivak will dodge those and probably clip him.
Yeah, and he also outweighs Oleinik by like 20 pounds, and he's bigger than him, and he's got a decent enough ground game. Adam, what do you think? Is the 44-year-old going to get the submission here?
I agree with you guys completely, man. There's, only two ways this fight goes: Oleinik by submission, or, Spivak by, knockout, or even a submission of his own, like just overpowering the old man. But yeah, I think I'll side with Oleinik one more time, man. It might be because I just watched, watching Ezekiel choke here in a PFL that's airing tonight while we record. And I'm like, yeah, that's Alexei Oleinik's move. That's a sign he's going to win, go out there. Maybe if Spivak wins, they can start claiming his like cream of the crop at heavyweight, because his record then will be 13-2 and he's still fairly young. So like Alexei Oleinik knows who he is now. He's a gatekeeper. That's the same thing in his last fight with was it Dawkins, right? Dawkins went in there and viciously knocked him out. Now Dawkins is considered a young, hot prospect in the UFC's heavyweight division. If Spivak's able to do the same, he probably will have the same consideration afforded to him. But now we'll see if he's able to do that. And my answer is no. Oleinik comes out there, does his thing, gets us a sub before the fight's over.
Yeah, one thing to note is the amount of fights Oleinik has had. He's 59-14-1, which is kind of crazy. He's lost, out of the last 7 fights, he's lost 5 of them. And they were all 2 stoppages. So he's getting knocked out a lot. I think Spivak gets this finish. And I am going to, against my good-minded nature and my sharp instincts, I am going to parlay with him with somebody down the line. I lost my notes. I'm going to be parlaying him with Marlon Vera in this next fight versus Davey Grant. We have Marlon Vera minus 200. He's 16-7-1 versus Davey Grant, who is plus 170, 13-4. Justin, do you have a read on this fight?
I originally was going to go with Grant by knockout, but then I realized Cheeto hasn't been knocked out before, or at least to my recollection. So I think probably Cheeto via decision. I think he'll probably keep him on the outside, probably leg kick him, pick him apart a little bit. Davey Grant's tough, man. It's hard to see him getting finished by Cheeto, but I think Cheeto will probably take it on the cards.
Adam?
And I believe these guys have fought before, right? This is a rematch.
Yeah.
Yeah, rematches barely ever go the same way. That's just one rule of thumb in MMA, and that leads me towards Chito Vera. And regardless, I think Chito Vera at this point in their careers, someone whose arrow is pointing more upward than David Grant, in my opinion. I think Marlon Vera goes in there and gets it done. It'll be a tough fight. I see a decision as well. Maybe even our fight of the night right here. Maybe it's one of those things where like we get a really great fight and then go right after it to the heavyweight slugfest that might be a bore. But anyway, we'll see how it all goes down. But yeah, I think Cheeto Vera gets his hand raised at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not sleeping on Davy Grant at all. And Marlon Vera, he had that one great round versus Jose Aldo, but he's working with Jason Perillo right now. I'm friends with Jason Perillo on Facebook, and they're training hard for this one. And I don't know if, for people that don't know, Jason Perillo is a trainer to these stars, especially his stand-up. And Davy Grant, he is just not doing it for me in this contest. I'm going to be parlaying Spivak and Vera for plus 115. So if that hits and Dan Ige loses, it'll be a wash. Hopefully it's not a complete disaster. Those are the two bets for the card. Moving down, we've got three more. We might just move quickly since we are up against it. Juliana Rosa versus Sung-Woo Choi. We've got Juliana Rosa plus 120, 25-9-0. Sung-Woo Choi, the fight of career right now. It's minus 140, 9-3. Adam, what do you think about this?
I think it's a good fight. Good fight. Irosa, I mean, it's not a top level featherweight bout. We've seen the killers in that division. Neither of these two guys. Maybe Sung-Woo Choi if he, shows a lot of improvement. Julian Rosa has vacillated between in and out of the UFC. He's been cut, re-signed, and stuff like that. So I expect them to both keep it standing and try to give us a good fight, give people a reason to remember their names so they can stick around for a little while. But I think
Bilal Muhammad's not fighting.
Ha ha ha. A good reference. I should have used that when we were talking about Bilal earlier in the podcast.
I got to throw one in each episode.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think Choi does enough to win the fight here. I don't know if he has what it takes to finish Erosa, who has been finished before. It could happen, but I still think Choi finds a way to get win.
I agree. Choi, he's got some power. We've seen him put it on people before. He beat Yusuf Zalal, who I think is even though he's had a couple losses, I rate him pretty high. Justin, you have a read on this one at all?
Yeah, I think Choi by knockout. I think Erosa's had some pretty rough ones, even though he's had some good wins. He beat Sean Woodson, and he beat the dude with I can't remember his name, but he's like some hillbilly dude with the fucked up hairline. He got a good performance against him, but
he lost to Gavin Tucker.
To Galvin Tucker? I think I'm thinking of someone else. The dude who beat Darren Elkins, I think. But he had a good show against him.
Yeah. You're
Nate
talking
Landwehr.
about
him. But I still think Choi probably knocks Erosa out.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Choi's going to be the pick. He lost decision to Movsar Evlaev, who looked really good at UFC 263. Why is that Nate Landwehr fight not on here? Or is that Julian Erosa?
I think that's Erosa.
This is going to be a close fight. Obviously, Erosa has the experience advantage. And his flying knee win versus Nate Landwehr is good. Gun to head, I'm going to pick Sung-Woo Choi in this one, but I can't really bet this one, and my confidence is shot right now. I am like a degenerate walking out of a horse track who just spent his rent money. Just kidding. My rent's paid. All my bills are paid, but it was just so demoralizing. So I'm scared, but I will be picking Sung-Woo Choi in this one. And in our next fight, we've got Wellington Turman, who is 16-4, He's plus 105 as a slight underdog against Bruno Silva. He's minus 125. Bruno Silva is coming back after USADA suspension. Adam, you think that will play a factor in this one at all?
Yeah, I actually do, because if you guys remember when Fabricio Verdun came back, I forgot who he fought again after USADA game popped and serving his 2 years, and he came back, and it was a fight he was supposed to win, but he looked like a shell of himself, and he lost that fight. It's something I expect to see play out again, similarly in this case, like Wellington Turban, has been more active as a result of Bruno Silva missing all that time, and I think it makes a difference here. He's able to find a way to out grapple him, and win a decision, maybe even get a finish. But Wellington Turman, as very slight plus money underdog right now, even in some places, but I think he gets the win.
Is that a bet for you yet? You have any bets on this card, or are you waiting?
Very little action on this card, much like yourself. Like Ige is a bet, as I said. Alexei Oleinik would be a bet. So those two I have in, and then I'll have one more in this final fight we're gonna discuss here. Those are my three bets for right now for this card.
True, and any other bets that are placed will be on the Twitter at Nuts MMA. That's NUTS MMA. Justin, how do you feel about
follow people? Give it a follow.
Give it a follow.
About the Truman fight?
Truman.
Oh, yeah, I think the USADA violation is going to play an effect. I think Truman wins. And that fight you were thinking of was Alexei Oleinik versus Verdun.
It was Alexei. Yeah, I remember that
bet
one.
on Verdun that night. I had a big bet on Verdun, and I was so pissed off.
Yeah.
And then
I was burned by him that day too. That's when I started saying, let me give Alexei some respect, but it might have just been the cheating.
Oh, I'm disgusted with myself sometimes. Bruno Silva is going to be my pick. He looks shredded on Instagram. Hopefully he's not juicing again. This is someone who beat Alexander Shlemenko, who's at the time one of the best people, especially one of the best Russians middleweights that's ever competed. So Bruno Silva is going to be the pick. No bet there. And last but not least, we will go to the over 40 division. Matt Brown is plus 145. He's 24-18. He's almost a 500 fighter at this point versus Diego Lima. He's minus 170. He's 17-8. I don't think he's that much more awesome in their current stage of their career, but Diego Lima can crack. Justin, you got a quick pick for this one or a breakdown?
Matt Brown KO. I think he actually looked great versus Baeza, and I think if he can hurt Baeza, he can definitely knock out Diego Lima.
True. In that first round, he was putting it on him.
Yeah.
Adam?
Yeah, I agree completely with what Justin said. And that'll round up my card for this event. I'd say Dan Ige, Alexei Oleinik, and Matt Brown are my three most confident picks for the main card, if you will, of Saturday's event. And yeah, that Matt should find a way to finish him here. Diego Lima, like they're both elderly, like plus 145, he's getting up there. Like he might, after this fight, focus exclusively on the coaching side of things and everything else he does. But I think for, one last time, the Immortal, there's a reason why he has that nickname, so he'll find a way to get it done, cash as a plus money underdog, and maybe ride off into the sunset. Who knows, with the speed of the way like legends having retired recently. What do you think, Trav?
That would be a pretty good way to ride off into the sunset. My only thing that's giving me pause is that Carlos Condit fight where he got out wrestled. Diego Lima's a huge welterweight too. If he wants to, I think he could probably do that. But I hope for Matt Brown, my Facebook friend, he can get this done. I'll pick Matt Brown, but super hesitant. One way that Matt Brown could win is in the clinch, where we've seen Diego Lima have problems versus Tim Means in the clinch. So hopefully you can clinch it up, get some of those elbows in. I'll pick Matt Brown as a fan boy pick. Now, at the end of each episode, we like to give shout outs. Adam, you got someone to give a shout out to this weekend?
Oh, as always, to the fist fight enjoyers, everyone in the chat, always keeping it a good time in there. Fight day, fight night, every time of the day, there's always someone from across the world with some funny shit that they got going on, and it's exciting. And, more power to you all. What about you, Justin?
So I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine that's unfortunately going through some rough times. His father passed away, so if we can give him some good vibes. His name is David Ramsey.
Shout out to you, David Ramsey.
Yeah, shout out to you, David.
I'm going to give a shout out to Paul Felder, who was an awesome lightweight and quickly becoming my favorite analyst on fight day. Even though Daniel Cormier wasn't there this weekend, he had wrestling tournament to attend to. Paul Felder is hot behind the mic. And that is it for episode 19 of Nuts and Bolts MMA. And for everyone else, step your game up.